Last of Us Part 2 has been out for a few weeks now and a lot of people have played it, and there's been a lot of discussion around it already. So naturally I'm just going to add to that. I'm mostly going to focus on, or ramble more accurately, on the story and themes rather than the gameplay. So I'm going to say...
Spoilers.
If you don't want to be spoiled, now is the time not to go any further. Very briefly, though if you've hung around to this point you must know the story. Ellie and Joel are now living in Jackson and have joined the community. Joel is violently beaten and killed in front of Ellie by Abby, a member of the WLF from Seattle, with the help of her friends. Ellie swears revenge and heads off to Seattle with kind of girlfriend Dina to hunt down Abby and, well, kill her. Simple, tried and tested plot, no? I'll just jump straight in and say the whole story was full of pacing problems from start to finish. I found the first few hours so slow, to the point of wondering if I was going to continue. I think part of the problem here was there wasn't a lot for me to do. I was just sitting back, watching a lot of cutscenes, and this is the problem I had all the way. There could be long periods of me doing nothing. I was invested in the story, but this was still a video game. I still wanted to do something. I would say it took up until about halfway through Ellie's first day for me to be fully engaged. And then everything seemed to go so fast. I was very aware the plot was speeding towards felt like a natural conclusion, and it felt too soon. Then it flipped to Abby, a very clever idea in my opinion. I grew to love Abby, but like everybody else, I was horrified at the prospect of having to play as the woman who killed Joel when it first happened. I think Abby's side of the story was good enough on its own, but it passed too slowly for me at times. I just wanted to get back to the theatre and see how everything panned out. Which isn't to say I didn't enjoy Abby's side of the story. Except for Owen. I didn't like Owen. Side note, oddly, I thought less of Abby for sleeping with Owen when he was still with his pregnant girlfriend Mel, than for anything else. And wow, what does that say about my moral compass? Bloody vengeance is a-okay, but infidelity? Oh no. That's terrible in the scheme of things. Anyway, sidetrack over. I loved what was going on with Lev and Yara. I loved the relationship that was building with them and Abby, but there just wasn't enough time to flesh it all out or justify why Abby had such a sudden change of heart. I was caught between wanting to know more and wanting to get back to the theatre and have the final confrontation with Ellie. Though, when I did get there, I had the issue that I really didn't want to fight Ellie, and I had the same issue at the end when I had to fight Abby. I'd grown attached to both of them. It also kind of went on a bit. I would have been happy for it to end with Ellie sitting on that tractor with JJ looking into the sunset. Maybe a nice little bit at the end that Abby and Lev got to the fireflies. I learned before Ellie that revenge was bad and was going to be the destruction of her. When Dina said that was it if she left, I was shouting at the television, "Don't go, you're going to lose everything!" I didn't need to kill Abby. I didn't want to in the same way I didn't want to hurt Ellie when I was playing as Abby. But no, we continued on. The whole Rattler thing just seemed tagged on and underbaked. They left more questions than they answered, unless they're going to go back to them in another game. I could have done without it. A big criticism I've heard is this game is depressing as hell. Yeah, it is, no doubt. But in a world where you have to worry about infected eating you or the non-infected shooting you in the back, it's not a happy little world to live in. What was the alternative? Ride around Jackson on horseback for 20 hours. That would have got old quickly. The first game wasn't overly cheery. Joel's daughter dies within the first 20 minutes. The first game had me sobbing before we'd even got going. Not exactly rainbows and bunnies, was it? I think the story struggles because of its non-linear structure. We're backwards and forwards so much. If the stories between Ellie and Abby over the 3 days in Seattle had crossed over or linked more, other than kind of just knowing what's going to go down in a location, perhaps it would have kept the bulk of the plot together. So with all that said, I guess I've got to get to the big Joel-shaped elephant in the room. Yeah, Joel was an integral part of the first game, and it was sad to see him killed. Of course it was, especially as it was in such a brutal way. But there was more to this series than just Joel. I don't know, maybe it's me. Maybe I've just played as way too many rugged white men in games. Characters I'm forced to play as but really have nothing in common with. Maybe I engaged with this one more because not only do I get to play as two strong, capable women, but one of them is gay. What a surprise that I related more to the characters who are like me. It may have been bleak, but at least I felt included for a change. There's a shocker, representation matters. An issue that a lot of people gloss over is this. Joel wasn't a saint. In fact, at the end of the first game, he potentially doomed the last of the human race. And I know this was a beloved character to many people, and they're upset he's gone. But for all the people who are so upset he's gone that they've walked away from the series altogether, there will be some who may have jumped back on board because he's no longer there. Look at it this way. Tons of people wanted Abby dead by the end of The Last of Us Part 2. But who's to say a lot of people didn't feel like that towards Joel by the end of the first game? I didn't want Joel dead at the end of the first game. Drastic. But there has been a lot of debate on if he was the real villain of the whole game. The ending of the first game never sat right with me, to the point of tarnishing the whole experience, and I could never figure out what it was I didn't care for. Playing the second game, I worked out that it wasn't that Joel killed all the fireflies, or that he denied the world the right to a cure. Let's be honest, 99% of parents in that situation would have done the same. It was the fact he lied to Ellie, and it wasn't just that, he took away any right to a choice on her fate. We see in the second game that Ellie would have wanted to go ahead and given her life to potentially develop a cure, and that was taken away from her. Interestingly enough, Abby got to make that choice. It was a hypothetical situation of, if I were immune, I'd want you to do this, when she had the discussion with her father. But a choice all the same. I also thought it interesting that Jerry Anderson wouldn't answer the question, would you do this procedure if it was Abby? He hesitates to answer. As a father himself, I think he knew what he would be doing was horrible and wrong, and Abby was the voice of reason that if he could develop a cure, she'd want him to do the procedure on her. They had that discussion, even if they weren't actually in that position. Ellie and Joel didn't have that discussion. Joel made the decision for Ellie, lied to her, and caused a complete breakdown in their relationship. This kinda leads me into something that really struck me through the game. Ellie and Abby in my mind are two sides of the same coin. Both of their motives for revenge are born from the relationship that they have with their fathers, or in Ellie's case, father figure. So much of what these two went through was shared by the other. I think something we need to remember is we see Ellie and Abby's quest for vengeance at different stages. I know that's pretty obvious to say considering technically Ellie doesn't get the revenge that she initially set out for. On reflection, we're seeing the cycle of vengeance from two sides. With Ellie we see the start of that journey, not the fact that Joel was killed, no, I mean the actual decision that this is the path she wants to go down. She wants to hunt down Abby and get justice for Joel's death. We don't see the same thought process with Abby, we practically jump straight into Abby getting her revenge. Obviously we're not in a position with Ellie to see her get revenge and see what the impact of this is, but we do see it with Abby and it's quite obvious it doesn't solve anything. She's no better for killing Joel, it didn't bring her father back, and she still has nightmares about his death. In fact, it just leads to her losing even more, because it results in the death of all of her friends. The turning point for Abby to move on is Lev and Yara. We don't know how this grieving process will end for Ellie. We don't know if letting Abby live will be her turning point. You have to assume from the way the game ends with her leaving behind the guitar that Joel gave her and that she can no longer play, that she started moving forward. The one thing we do see is that both lose just about everything. Abby killing Joel results in Ellie killing all of Abby's friends, while Ellie loses Dinah and JJ because she just can't let the matter go. People are simplifying the message of the game to violence is bad, forgiveness is good, but there's more to it than that. The thing is, Abby does bad things, Ellie does bad things, Joel did bad things. 90% of the people in this world do bad things to stay alive because it's a horrible world to live in. It doesn't mean that there aren't consequences. And that's part of the message. Actions have consequences. This game impacted on me. I didn't just play through and finish and go, oh okay, done now. No, I'm playing through it again, straight away. I never do that. I'm reading reviews and I'm watching playthroughs on YouTube. As much as I enjoyed the first one on the PS3, I never got around to playing again on the PS4 remastered version. As I've previously touched on, maybe a lot of the reason why I was so invested in this game was because of the characters, because I felt more included in their stories and wanted to see how they played out. Games are an art and in that sense divisive. This was always going to be the case with this game, and I think only time will tell if it's truly worked and paid off for Naughty Dog in the long run. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, like and share, or maybe drop me a comment to let me know how I've done. Or maybe you just want to discuss the game. And hopefully I'll be back soon with another video.